Hey guys, it's Candace.
And it's Elena.
And you're listening to Cousins on Crime.
What you doing?
Oh, I'm just recording a podcast.
Oh.
I know.
How cool is that?
I know. So cool.
Yeah.
How have you been?
Good.
It's a Tuesday. Tuesday sucks. I was just at the dentist and he was like, how's your week going? And I was like, well, it's Tuesday. So ask me tomorrow.
Yeah. Hey, every day's a new day.
Oh, Lena.
You can, you know.
You're the best. Yeah, every day's a new day.
You have to decide to make it a good day.
Yeah, I had a nap
It's a choice.
Today.
Okay.
I chose to take a nap.
And good for you.
I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
I cannot go on.
Sometimes your body is just like, no, you're not doing it. That's one thing that I struggled with this last week. I was like, I have to work on my case. And
right.
I'm like, my body's like, no, you're going to sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
that is the thing is I had a neuroscience professor who said, do not stay up too late studying for your midterms. It will do you no good. She said it will do you better if you go to sleep and let your mind, let your brain
renew,
solidify all the things that you have learned because you won't be operating on, the same wavelengths. So
the brain is so intricate.
It is. The brain, the center of the chain. Anybody watch the Babysitter's Club back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not talking about the remake. I'm talking about the 90s
one.
Come on. You know what I'm talking about. Anyways, Las Vegas. What's your opinion? I think I know your opinion, but please share.
Do you really want me to get into it?
I mean...
Maybe that's why we have mini Jesus sitting on the table with us. I know. Yeah, it's a very busy place.
It is.
There's a lot of people, which I prefer to stay away from. Yeah. What do you have to tell me?
I only go there because Dusty's there.
You've got your bestie.
I know. I wouldn't go there otherwise. When I'm there, I do sometimes embrace the glitz and glamour. Okay. Sometimes I'll go to a show or, some weird restaurant that I've never been to.
Yeah, because they've got some good eating there and
they've got great food there, really interesting, unique places to go. And I'll definitely be doing some of that next month when I go there.
Okay.
But for people around the world, Las Vegas is one of the most desirable destinations for any occasion, really.
Okay.
Bachelorette parties.
Yes. It's a party place.
Just got divorced. Just got married.
Anything you can think of.
Anything you can think of. It's the city that never sleeps. The lights are always on and you can literally do anything you want.
Yes.
If you drink too much, you can literally order a doctor to your hotel room to give you an IV.
I did not know that.
Well, it wasn't for me, but I do have a friend that utilized that service. So yeah, you can do anything you want and get anything you want. But the case I want to tell you about today takes place on the Vegas Strip. More specifically, one of the most iconic locations on the Strip's cityscape. The Luxor Hotel and Casino.
Oh, really?
We stayed there before, Lena, didn't we?
We did.
If you've never even been to Las Vegas, you probably know the hotel I'm referring to. It's the giant pyramid. Can't miss it.
Mm-hmm.
So on May 7th, 2007 at 4:09 a.m., hotel security called 911 reporting an explosion on the roof of the parking garage. Detective Dean O'Kelly, along with Vegas Metro, the bomb squad, FBI, ATF, and other emergency personnel, descended on the scene to assess the damages. Because as first responders, they hear a bomb went off and they're thinking, okay, how many victims are we talking about? In other words, like, what kind of damage radius are we talking about?
Right.
And and they probably prepare for the worst. I mean, they're trained to prepare for the worst, especially, ATF and the bomb squad. But they probably may have been a little bit surprised when they were able to access the rooftop so easily and actually drive right up to the location where the bomb had detonated.
Oh, so it wasn't a huge radius.
Right. Well, we'll get to it.
Okay.
So there was a man lying on the ground, according to Microsoft Word.
Okay. They want to correct
I would say laying, but they say lying. Fine. Anyway, he was lying next to a black Dodge Stratus, and he was clearly in really, really bad shape. His right hand had been blown off, and he had a significant head wound that was bleeding profusely all over the concrete.
Oh, no.
Standing nearby was a very distraught woman who identified herself as Karen Chawley, the victim's girlfriend. Karen met her boyfriend, Willebaldo Dorantes Antonio, at the hot dog stand inside the Luxor, where they both worked. She told investigators that her and Willebaldo walked out to the car that night after their shift was over, and when they approached the car, they both saw this cup sitting on the top of the car. And Karen walked around to the passenger side, and it was about that time that Willebaldo remarked, like, why is this piece of trash on my car? Like, why would someone leave this on my car?
Yeah.
And so something to that effect. And he reached up to take the cup off. And then that's when Karen heard this loud bang and saw a burst of flames. Oh. And instinctively, I mean, she ducked down.
Okay.
She wasn't sure what was happening. But when she came back up, she couldn't see Willebaldo. So she ran around to the other side, and that's when she saw how gravely he was injured.
Oh, that's so awful.
So she was pointing out to the detectives where the damaged areas were on the car, where the cup had been sitting. And Detective O'Kelly could see a dent and a burn pattern in that area, right on the edge, like think where the roof meets the top of the driver's door.
Okay.
There was also a gash, and I'll post as many pictures as I can on our Patreon, so y'all can see, but there was a gash and like an area that had blown through the frame and into the car. So there was like a hole.
Whoa.
But other than those defects, the damage seemed pretty contained to that one area, and actually none of the windows were shattered in the process. And because of all of this, police are thinking this could have been targeted very specifically to the driver of the vehicle. I mean, it was sitting right there.
Right.
It was
placed there for a reason.
It was placed there to be moved.
Yes.
Essentially. So they just weren't sure, was this specific to Willebaldo, or is this some jerk who's just placed it on top of a random car? They didn't know. Investigators didn't know what to make of this situation at all, really. In fact, directly after they arrived on scene, they evacuated the casino, secured the perimeter, because they weren't sure if this was the only bomb. They weren't sure if this was a terrorist attack. I mean, it's a highly populated tourist area. This would be, it seems like, a place to do it. They didn't know if all Luxor employees were in danger or what. So they had to secure the scene. There had been actually another explosion earlier that morning, about 2 hours before the bomb at the Luxor. A bomb went off right next to the building of the Black Pearl Tattoo Shop.
What?
Which was, I can't remember how many miles away, but it was off the strip. Thankfully, no one was hurt in that explosion, but it did cause damage to the building, and who's to say that it wasn't meant to hurt someone? I mean, what purpose is there to set off a bomb other than to cause damage and destruction?
Right. Someone was playing around.
Right. So There were some striking differences, though,
Oh.
between these explosions, the one at the tattoo shop and the Luxor. Other than there being no victims at the tattoo shop, the device was entirely different. It was a Molotov cocktail, actually, that was used at the tattoo shop. And the debris didn't match any of the components found at Willebaldo's death scene. So they're thinking these are randomly coincidental, but also not linked.
I don't know.
Yeah. There were over 180 pieces of evidence collected.
Whoa.
On the top of that parking garage. So when you said the blast radius wasn't that big, the blast radius was, and I think that when we think of a pipe bomb,
okay,
because it turns out being a pipe bomb, but I guess kind of like a shotgun, the damage is in
it spreads out.
Right, it spreads out. So they found it all over the top of that place.
Okay.
And any one of those pieces could have been deadly.
Wow.
There were pieces of 9-volt battery, segments of metal pipe, and interestingly enough, a little green cap that fits a Christmas light into it. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay, yeah.
It goes onto the Christmas lights and strings together.
Yeah.
That was found there.
So they probably connected that to the 9-volt battery.
Perhaps.
I'm not telling you how to make a bomb, okay?
I get into it in a little bit.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay.
So Willebaldo was rushed to the hospital, but despite doctors' best efforts to stop the bleeding and save his life, at just 24 years old, he was pronounced dead just before 7 a.m.
No, I don't like it.
I know. An autopsy revealed stippling all over his arms and actually on his eyeball.
No way.
Yeah, Detective O'Kelly said that the explosion happened so fast he didn't even have time to blink.
Stop it.
Isn't that wild? The fatal wound, though, was a piece of the metal end cap from the bomb that had entered his skull and lodged into his brain. Karen was unharmed because she was on the other side of the car. Willebaldo's brother, Miguel, was contacted to inform his family of the accident and death of his brother, and Miguel was tasked with the impossible, which was to call their mother and break the news to her.
Oh, man.
He told Oxygen for an episode of Sin City Murders that he'll never forget the way she screamed on the other end of the phone. Like, it resounds in his head to this day.
Right. Oh, I could imagine.
And she was in Mexico.
Oh, no.
So,
oh, no.
Willebaldo's cousin, Maximo, described Willebaldo as being ambitious and really wanting to make money for his family. He was born in Mexico. He came from humble beginnings, and he moved to the U.S. when he was just 15.
Whoa, by himself?
Yeah.
That's brave.
I think it was by himself. There was no reporting of, like, him coming with other family members. Maybe he already knew someone in Vegas and that's why he came.
Okay.
There's not only a large Hispanic population in Las Vegas already, but there's no shortage of jobs.
Right.
And that's what he was coming to the US for, is to work and make money for his family. So he knew the hospitality industry, he could pick anything. He could work, just do anything. So he began working at a hot dog stand, and his brother and cousin back home thought it was so cool. Like, for some, the American dream is just getting to live here, you know? Like, that's really cool to a lot of people. We take that for granted, and all the opportunities that we have here in the U.S. But his family was really proud of him living and working in the U.S. and in Vegas, of all places. It was rather glamorous. Willebaldo wasn't a troublemaker. I mean, he just did his thing. He went to work, came home. He sent money back to his family.
Aww.
And the only thing that the family could point to leading up to his death that could give any indication as to what happened was that he seemed a little uneasy in the days leading up to his death. like on edge, and they didn't know why.
Okay.
He didn't say why. So let's talk about CCTV, because you know we're in Vegas,
right?
And you know there's cameras everywhere. So they queued up CCTV from the Luxor. It showed Willebaldo and Karen, with a C, by the way, walking from the Luxor to the parking garage hand in hand. You know, they were ready to go get some sleep, probably at 4:07 a.m. The exterior camera picks them up walking out onto the roof of the parking garage, past rows and rows of cars, until they reached Willebaldo's car. And they're seen parting ways right about the driver's side so that Karen can walk around, get into the passenger side, and moments later, you can see the explosion on the footage. So they wind the tape back several hours to see where did that come from. So they see Willebaldo's car. This is several hours earlier, just sitting there, no cup on top. So they fast forward a little bit, and they found that at 1:11 a.m., a white vehicle is seen driving around the parking lot, like kind of driving up and down the rows to look for, it looked like they were looking for something. Okay. They pulled up next to Willebaldo's car and then hesitated for a minute, and then they drove away. At 2:37 a.m., the same car is spotted coming back onto the roof of the parking garage, and without wasting any time at all, they go right to Willebaldo's car, pull right up next to it. Someone gets out of the passenger side and places that cup on top of the car and gets back in, and they drive away.
So there are two suspects we're looking for. Lena. Okay.
That's why I keep you around, because you're on top of this.
Exactly.
The footage from the Luxor parking garage wasn't great. It was grainy. It was black and white. So they couldn't zoom in and get this license plate number or even what kind of car it was. Luckily, they found better footage from the Excalibur, which was next to the Luxor, but they still couldn't see what type of car it was. I mean, they had the body style. They thought it maybe looked like a Chevy, so they took a still of this car and took it to the Chevy dealership.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This is some gumshoe stuff.
Sure.
I love it. And they're like, can someone tell us what this looks like? And someone was like, that right there is a 2006 Chevy Cobalt.
Is that how they talk in Vegas?
I don't think so, but I just imagine that someone...
Maybe they're from Texas.
Right.
And they just moved there. Okay.
I mean, can you imagine what a hero that guy was? He probably felt like he could fly.
That's perfect. Take it to...
Right.
Take it to car people who know what a car... Yeah.
And he's like, I just broke the case. And yes, sir, you did. Thank you for your service. Well, police went to Willebaldo's home to see if maybe he had any roommates that could shed light on his life or recent activity. Hey, maybe someone there drove a white Chevy Cobalt. They didn't know.
Okay.
Detectives knocked on Willebaldo's door, and this lady answers the door. She introduced herself as Leticia, Willebaldo's wife.
Excuse me?
Oh, and I'm not done. In the background, there's a babbling 1-year-old baby bouncing away.
Oh, no.
He was married with a child. Willebaldo.
What are you doing?
Naturally, this caught them off guard. They were not expecting to find a wife and a child there when he had just been with his girlfriend the night before, but to each his own. Okay, you are in Vegas. They learned that Willebaldo had returned to Mexico at one point in the past few years, where he had met Leticia. She became pregnant and he returned to the U.S.
Okay.
He returned by himself. I don't know when they got married. Was it before or after the baby? I don't know. But Leticia, just 3 weeks earlier, had joined him in Vegas.
What?
So I guess he wanted her to come live there and bring their child. But yeah, just 3 weeks before he was killed. Now, Leticia knew that Willebaldo had been dating someone.
Okay, but how long was he with the girlfriend?
It's all very murky. Okay. And who knows? Leticia knew that Willebaldo had been dating someone before she came to Vegas. And then when she got to Vegas, he said he had ended things with Karen. So I don't know if she was okay with him dating someone while she was back in Mexico. I don't know the dynamic there, but she was aware that he had a girlfriend. He was dating someone else. I don't even know if him and Leticia were technically together at that time because she was in Mexico. He was in the U.S.
Okay.
But when she got to Vegas, he said, okay, like I broke up with Karen and like we're going to work this out.
Yeah.
But just before his death, I'm talking maybe a week, maybe days, Willebaldo told Leticia that he needed time to think. And he needed some space to do so. So she took that to mean that they were still together, but he was just figuring out what he really wanted. As women do. And men think the opposite. We were on a break. So Karen also knew about Leticia.
Oh.
Yeah. She knew he was married to this woman.
What?
She knew he had a baby. But by the time she had learned that he was married with a child, she was so in love with him that it didn't affect her feelings for him or her desire to be with him. So it was just a messy love triangle, but it seems like everyone was in the know about everyone else and what was going on. Things
just
were being worked out.
Willebaldo do what he wanted to do.
It just seemed like everybody knew. Nothing was a secret. Everybody knew. And police had no reason to suspect that this love triangle, like either of these women would want him dead. Quite the contrary. Both of the women loved him and wanted to be with him. So they went back to Karen to question her in more detail this time because, you know, they did have a conversation with her on the rooftop that night or in the wee hours of the morning. But something to note here is that Karen was actually in police custody when they went back to talk to her.
Oh.
Yeah. She was being detained because, well, she didn't go here.
Oh, no.
She was from Guatemala.
Oh.
And she'd been in the country illegally since the year prior.
Oh, she's just getting into trouble left and right.
Aye.
Uh-oh.
So the authorities kept her around long enough to videotape her account before they deported her and her daughter back to Guatemala.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So
Karen,
she had a daughter too.
She had a child.
Okay.
Yeah. Which we'll talk more about. So Karen didn't know of any enemies that Willebaldo had. I mean, he had no enemies, but maybe it wasn't his enemy. Maybe it was an enemy of hers.
Oh, she's got enemies.
Yeah. So she told police that they should probably go speak with her ex-boyfriend, Alexander Perez, who was the father of her 3-year-old child.
Oh, girl.
Yeah. He had recently been harassing her. He would come up to the hot dog stand, not for buns, not for weenies. He wanted to hound her about seeing their daughter, who she was with, what she was doing. He just couldn't face that their relationship was over. Now, Karen met Alexander in Guatemala, where they were both from, and they began dating in 2001. So 6 years before this event. They had a baby in 2004, and when Alexander traveled to Las Vegas in April of 2006, just a year before this happened, he convinced Karen to join him and bring their child. Once she arrived in the U.S., things just deteriorated with Alexander, and she began seeing Willebaldo because she started working at that hot dog stand. Willie, I'm going to call him because he's my friend.
Okay.
Willie was so nice to her, and he treated her nice. I mean, when women are in terrible toxic relationships, the first guy that treats them nice, they're like, huh? They're like, you're nice to me? Like, why aren't you being rude to me? But he was very attentive and loving towards her and her daughter. So she just fell for him really quickly. Well, Karen's ex is someone they're going to want to speak with because for all they know, Karen planned all of this and is blaming it on her ex-boyfriend.
Oh.
Well, let's go talk to him. They went to search for this guy's address, and there was no Alexander Perez in that area, which sounds like a really common name, but they couldn't find this guy that she's talking about. So they think, oh, are you making him up? Like, now, are you blaming this on some guy that doesn't exist?
Yeah, why the lies?
Yeah, it was no one matching his description. So Karen was able to take them to his house. Like, this is where he lives.
Come on, I'll show you.
Yeah, his last known address. And a woman answered the door, and she's like, I don't know any Alexander Perez.
What?
And before they walk away thinking, well, we've got the wrong house or she's lying, they showed this woman a photo of this Alexander Perez, and she's like, oh yeah, I know him, but his name is Omar Rueda Denvers.
Okay.
And according to court records, the name Omar Rueda Denvers belonged to a man that Karen and Alexander had worked for in Panama back in 2003. So when Karen heard this name that he was going by, she's like, what? He's using that guy's name that we used to know all of them years ago?
Wow.
Well, Alexander had already tarnished the name Omar. That he'd been going by, which I'll call him Omar moving forward.
Okay.
Because that's the name that's used in all the court documents. He had an arrest for domestic violence against his new girlfriend, Rosa Alfonso. By the time police caught up with Omar, Rosa and Omar had really become more of like an on and off situationship type of thing. They dated at times, but they were more like friends now. But she was very much a part of his life. They still saw each other.
Because he probably harassed her too, like he harassed Karen. Okay.
Yeah, I probably couldn't let her go either. So in the early morning hours that Willebaldo was killed, Rosa noticed that the extra set of keys to her car were missing.
Oh.
Guess what kind of car she had? A Chevy Cobalt. So Rosa led police to Omar. I'm not sure if she drew him out or found him or what it was, but she helped police find him.
Okay.
They had a warrant and they drew him outside the city limits because they were like, we don't know if he's got another bomb, if he's going to blow himself up. You know, like they took him out. They like went and got him out in the desert. They didn't know. They were able to somewhat peacefully get him into custody by dragging him through the driver's side window.
Not so nonchalant.
Not so peaceful, but they did get him into custody with no events. And in Omar's car, they found electrical tape. They found an electrical current tester, which everyone has one of those in their car. Wires and wire cutters. Oh, and the missing set of keys to Rosa's car.
Mm-hmm.
But did I even need to say that? They found some other items in his home, like a drill bit and stuff like that. But they were like, these are not the things we found in that bomb. Like wire cutters and like stuff that were related.
Makes sense that it could be used.
Makes sense that it would be used in a bomb, but not the actual components.
Okay.
And he just looked really stupid. And they're like, you couldn't build something like that.
Oh, no.
Investigators knew someone drove him.
Yeah.
Someone drove someone. Mm-hmm. They didn't know if it was him or someone else that got out of the car that night. But they knew he wasn't alone. So what was this other person's role in all of this and why? Rosa told police that Omar had been spending nearly every day leading up to the murder with this character named Porfirio Duarte Herrera.
Okay.
Or Pilo, as his mates called him. I'm not his mate, but I'll call him Pilo from now on. And that just reminds me of like pilau rice. Oh, curry. I could really go for a curry right now. Anyway, Pilo didn't strike the police as a bomb making expert either. And they did think whoever built that bomb was very good at it because it was one of the most sophisticated bombs they had ever seen.
Oh.
They questioned Pilo for some time, and all the while he denied being involved in Willebaldo's death. When they let Pilo know that his wife had already told them that he was out until after 4 a.m. the night or the wee hours of the morning of the murder, he began to sway a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And once he started talking, he was actually quite happy to tell them about his bomb making skills.
Oh, he was proud of himself.
Yeah. And I'm sure with a little ego stroking, they were able to pull more out of him. Like, dude, you built that? You know what I mean? That's what I would do if I was a cop. I'd
build him up.
Yes. And so he gets out this piece of paper and he drew a diagram of how he built it.
What?
He described how he placed all the components of the bomb in a cup. He used a magnet to secure the cup to the car so it wouldn't like blow off or roll off.
Mm-hmm.
He used shotgun powder and an old car switch and that Christmas light bulb all rolled into this metal pipe with a cap on. Why am I describing this bomb to you? I don't know. Anyways, Pilo may have been a lowlife, but he had a knack for bomb making. This definitely was not his first time.
Uh-huh.
With law enforcement gathered around, watching him sketch out this device he made, he was feeling pretty proud of himself. I mean, I imagine some of it was kind of genuine. Like these police officers were like, dang, you know what I mean? Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Why can't you go work for the government and use your bomb making skills?
Use it as a productive use of...
Right. Work for us. But even though he admitted all of that, he just would not admit to the intent to kill.
Okay.
He didn't know what the bomb was for. Didn't know what it was for.
He was just happy to make it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Omar admitted to driving the car to the Luxor and trying to track down his ex, but he didn't know his friend had a bomb.
Sure.
So.
Okay.
Well, the two men went to trial and they were actually tried together.
Oh.
I don't know why they still do this.
It's weird.
I've never understood trying co-defendants together. It's like, is it to save time? Money?
I would think so. Both of those, especially being Vegas and how
busy they probably.
Yeah.
To me, it muddies the waters, and I think a jury has to work overtime to separate things, separate facts with regard to this person's actions and this person's actions. I think it's too much, and I think it gives.
Agreed.
I think everyone deserves their own jury. Like no matter what you've done.
Totally
I think everyone deserves their own jury. But who am I? I'm no one. Anyway, both men were pointing the finger at each other the whole time. Which again, like how is a jury to decide this but to go, you're both guilty or you're both not guilty? You know what I mean? And as with their initial interrogations, their defense was to admit just enough to put them there. Just enough to explain all the evidence they had against him, why the car keys were in Omar's truck, why all the bomb making supplies were, you know, and they're like, well, yeah, I made the bomb. Well, yeah, I drove there, but they wouldn't admit to it all being for the same reason. They all denied it and said that they played a secondary role unknowingly in Willebaldo's murder.
Okay, sure.
But I think in this case, no matter how convoluted things might have gotten, the jury didn't have to think too hard about who was responsible for what.
Uh-huh.
They could see who did what and why, and they knew that they were both complicit, regardless of their intent for Willebaldo's death. So in September of 2009, both men were found guilty of first-degree murder. You don't build a bomb without intending to destroy, and you don't put it on a driver's side without intending to hurt someone
Great point,
or kill
Candace.
them. Anyway, they both received life in prison without the possibility of parole. Fun fact, they were also charged and found guilty of attempted murder and transportation of explosives and possessions of an explosive. Slap them, stack them, and rack them. Anyway, after his conviction, Pilo confessed to another bombing incident months before Willebaldo's death. He'd placed a bomb in the Home Depot parking lot next to a truck. Thankfully,
just because
he was
testing
you live
it
in the desert. Take it out into the desert
right.
and see what it does.
That's exactly
blow a
right.
hole into the earth if you're so curious. Thankfully, nobody was hurt in this one.
Lord.
Nobody was in the truck or around the truck, but the bomb in this case was also very sophisticated, appearing to be set off by a timer.
Oh.
Prosecutor David Stanton said that the attack was like, quote, shooting into a crowd and missing everyone, end quote. I mean, this parking lot was located on a very busy street. Lots of foot traffic.
Yeah.
And cars stopping at red lights at one point or another. So, yeah, attempted murder.
Yeah.
I would say. Even though he was already serving life, according to the Associated Press, they charged him and convicted him of attempted murder, bomb making, bomb possession, and destruction of property. So he is now serving life plus 16 to 40 years.
Wow.
And the jury that convicted him in the Home Depot bomb didn't hear anything about Willebaldo's death. None of that was allowed in.
Oh.
So they convicted him just based on this bomb he set off in the middle of a Home Depot parking lot, and they thought, no, you can't do that. They didn't need to know anything else.
Yeah.
They were like, you cannot do that. Well, we know they always appeal. Like, they always appeal.
Oh, yeah.
Any self-respecting convicted killer would. I didn't see any reporting about Pilo appealing the murder, the death of Willebaldo. I didn't see anything about that, but Omar Rueda Denvers's appeal seemed to have caught the attention of the appellate court. His appeal was granted on a Bruton violation. Have you ever heard of that?
Bruton?
Bruton violation. I haven't either. I had to do some research to really understand what they meant by it. You know, legalese is convoluted, and I feel like it's meant to make us not understand.
Yeah.
So I had to reread it, but basically here it is. In a joint trial, a testifying co-defendant, their confession or testimony cannot be used to implicate their co-defendant. It's considered hearsay.
Oh.
Even though they're in the room, they're co-defendants, it's considered hearsay. So
that's interesting. How did that
I think
even
it's interesting. Listen, even though you're on trial for murder, you still have rights, and this is one of them. So we'd all want the same courtesy, I guess.
Sure.
We wouldn't want our co-defendant implicating us.
Saying things.
But yeah, saying things and that being used against us.
Yeah. Okay.
Hence, have separate trials. I'm just saying. So anyway, because of this Bruton violation in his first trial, Omar was granted a new trial in 2019.
Oh.
Yeah. Unlike the first trial, Karen was flown into the U.S. to testify in person about Omar's volatile past. At the first trial, she, I told you they videotaped her testimony when she was in custody. Well, they used that. But now she's in the U.S. and she's ready to put him away. Know who else took the stand in this trial, this second trial?
Who's that?
Omar himself. I don't know what he was thinking, but
he's like, I can talk my way out of this.
You know what? I'm going to try something different this time. So he told the jury the only reason he came to the Luxor that night and all other times to stalk Karen was that he just wanted to see his daughter.
Because his daughter was there?
Right. Karen was keeping him from his daughter.
At 4:00 in the morning?
He said Karen wouldn't let him see her, and he just wanted to see her. That's all. He said the night Willebaldo was killed, he went to the Luxor to identify Willebaldo's car, which is where we see the car, going in to look for somebody, and then they leave. And then he returned later with Pilo, and Pilo was meant to put a GPS tracker on the top of the car. Not a bomb.
Oh. Okay.
Of course, this is the first time anyone is hearing this story in all the years since Willebaldo's death.
Okay.
Not when they first arrested him, not during the first trial, not at any of the pretrial hearings.
Why wouldn't you mention a GPS in the first place?
I mean, maybe he just thought of it after all these years.
Yeah, he had a lot of time to sit and think.
Yeah. It was never told to police, just now. All in all, 10 years after he was found guilty of murder, a brand new jury understood the assignment, and Omar was found guilty a second time.
Okay.
He got life without the possibility of parole again. Because we see you.
Well, it was a good try, Omar.
It was a nice try.
Alexander.
Thank you for wasting everybody's time and taxpayer dollars and
sure. Yeah.
Well, meanwhile, back in Southern Desert Correctional Facility, which according to the Reno Gazette-Journal is a medium security prison, Porfirio
Don't say it because I was
Duarte Herrera Pilo, as his friends call him, had escaped.
Whenever you told me that he went to prison, you
were like,
I'm thinking in my mind, okay, do they have him really contained?
He's a bomb maker,
he
and
sounds
they put
very
him
resourceful
in a medium. I've never even heard of a medium security prison, to be honest. Anyway, he used battery acid
to
melt the window frame in his prison cell and then busted out of there. Didn't grab shoes or nothing, Jesus. He makes his way to a Greyhound bus station to head back to Mexico. But an employee recognized him.
Oh my God.
Okay, Elena, listen to this. That's not the part. Okay. He had been on the run for 4 days at this point by the time he makes it to this. He escaped on a Friday night, and they didn't realize he was gone until the next Tuesday at head count. I guess that's what they mean by medium security, is because there
was no security.
They're not counting heads every day.
What?
Anyway, I could get to Mexico in 1 day. I'm not sure what he was doing for 4 days. Maybe he was wandering around the desert, like trying to find a road or something. I don't know. Thankfully, not a great fugitive, but what was he doing for 4 days? What was he doing for 4 days?
That's good.
It doesn't matter. They found him. He couldn't set foot on any bus back to Mexico, and he was sent back to prison. They put him in a new cell. Hopefully, they made sure he didn't have any access to any more batteries.
Yeah. I mean,
moving
that would
forward.
Can we just use our brains for a minute?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a shame. It seems like he's a really resourceful and I don't want to say intelligent because that's not the word. Talented. I don't think that's the word.
Ingenuitive.
Yeah. Too bad he couldn't have used that for good.
Right.
Instead of killing people. Well, I do want to mention, though, that Pilo and Omar were also illegal immigrants, but they still are here in the U.S. in prison.
Yeah, because that's where they did the crime.
That's right. That's where they did the crime. And once they're done with their life sentence with no parole, they'll be sent back to where they came from, I guess, which is in a box. I don't know. It sucks. It feels like Willebaldo was just doing his best and found love twice. It sounds like he was a father and he was just trying to figure things out. Maybe he married Leticia so she could come to the U.S.
Okay.
And live here so he could have a relationship with his daughter.
Because that does happen.
I mean, that happens. I like to think of it that way instead of it being like this messy love triangle. It's just really sad that he was just an innocent. Like, he totally didn't, like, for what?
Yeah.
Because this guy was jealous. It just sucks. I don't know. There's not much reporting about him because he is from Mexico. So most of his life we don't know about. But devastating loss for his family. You know, they were so proud.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, moving to America was supposed to keep him safer in their minds.
Right.
And this happens. A brighter future, more opportunity, a beautiful life. And it's just not fair.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Oh, wow. That's like, you just get, and it's not even like getting mixed up in the wrong crowd.
It's not. That's the thing, is like, he fell in love with someone who happened to have some really terrible baggage.
Yeah.
So.
Oh. I don't know what to say. That's.
I know. It's really sad.
Poor Willebaldo.
Rest in peace, Willie.
No, Willie.
Well,
thank you for telling his story, and that was great. Let's do it again sometime.
Let's do it. We'll see you next week, guys.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Cousins on Crime. Get connected with us by becoming a free member on our Patreon. Or for just $5 a month, you'll have access to bonus episodes, discussion groups, and much more. If you can't afford $5 a month, we get it. Inflation, am I right? Please consider leaving us a positive review and rating wherever you listen.
And don't forget merch. Support our podcast and show the love by sporting t-shirts with our latest designs, or grab an evidence bag to keep the chain of custody for all your valuables. Don't forget to follow our show on your favorite streaming app so you never miss an episode, and get photos and updates on our Instagram at Cousins on Crime Podcast or our Cousins on Crime Facebook page. Have a case suggestion? Email us at cousinsoncrime@gmail.com.